So first, let's dig into always work for equity. If you're going to work for equity as wealth strategy, you should always be working for equity in the sense that if you're going to be working a W-2 job, you want to make sure there's an equity component to it. I'm going to take a few steps back for everybody who's listening because I know a lot of people are listening trying to understand how to get into this at all. So let's talk about the history. Technology companies for many years, I know starting in the 80s, possibly earlier than that, have provided equity or fractional ownership shares in the company as part of their compensation package. Well, why did they do this? They did this because a lot of them starting out didn't have a lot of cash to invest. So they wanted to secure great talent. So they would give them fractional ownership because if the business succeeded, if they executed to the business plan, there'd be tremendous amount of upside for those involved. And that has continued to this day. And the reason behind it, why do they continue to do it? The same reason as before, they can attract great talent to early stage companies where there's more risk. In larger companies, you think about the Google, the Microsoft, the Amazons, Facebook. These companies today have to do it. They have to retain top talent. So if you understand that broad playing field and you understand that companies are doing this to retain talent. And when I say to retain, it means that you can get let's talk about this. What happens is you go to work, you're going to get a compensation plan and it's going to be salary and equity. It's not one or the other. I had somebody ask me the other day, so when you go to work for equity, that means you don't get a paycheck. You only get this equity. No, you get both. In these compensation packages, you get a salary, sometimes a bonus depending on your level, and you get equity. It's all dictated by a stock agreement. It tells you all the ins and outs. And we'll talk a little bit about what are some of the skills that you need to be good at working for equity. So they do this to retain talent. And it happens today. And it happens in startup companies. It happens in mature unicorn companies that are getting ready to go public or get acquired. It happens in public technology companies. Is you can work for equity. Why is this so powerful? It's powerful because you're not just trading your time for money. You actually get ownership shares in the company. So when we think about Robert Kiyosaki wrote a seminal book. I read it in the late 90s when I was going to college, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. In Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he created this cash flow quadrant. You're a W-2 employee, you're trading your time for salary. Then he had your business owner in the top right-hand side, and then on the bottom, he had your passive investor, your cash is scaling and making money for you. And the key thing is in these top two quadrants, you have the working, trading your time for a paycheck, and then you have the equity. Now, the reality is he wrote a gap in between, but there's really a bridge. And that's why I call this concept Kiyosaki's bridge. And this is why I think this is so powerful, is that when you work for equity as a W-2 employee, you get the benefit of both. You get the benefit of being the employee. Well, what's the benefit? The benefit of being the employee is it's flexible. You know, for many states, it's at-will employment. There's no employment contract, so you can leave whenever you want. Unlike an owner of the company, a lot of them have to stay there for years through ups or downs, even if it's successful or not. But you as working as an employee, you also get the income from a steady paycheck, right? That is something that is part of your agreement in your employment is you are going to get some income, but you're also then going to get these ownership shares, compounding factor. I call this career compensation compounding, where you have the ability to have fractional ownership shares in the company, and there's a portion of your compensation is based on the results of the company. It actually can go up to the right. This is the power play, right? This is the opportunity to then be able to be an owner in the company, but have the flexibility of being the employee. This is what I call Kiyosaki's bridge. And this is why you always want to work for equity, is because when you have this, you have the ability to then get the benefit of both. Let's talk about what the power of this is. I pulled out a stat this morning that I thought was really interesting. So the average total compensation of a non-tech, non-equity engineer, so somebody who doesn't have equity, but who's working in a non-tech company with no equity as an engineer, their average base salary across the United States, $125,000. $100,000 salary, $25,000 bonus. That's their compensation package. It's a nice six-figure compensation package. Let's look at the same for an average total compensation of a Facebook engineer. So somebody who's doing some engineering at Facebook, these numbers were for 2022. Their total compensation package, $357,000. They had a higher base, $175,000 base. So these technology companies are paying higher base, but they had a $182,000 equity package. So the difference there is more than twice as much. When somebody goes to work for these companies, and this is what, when you're also in that environment and you're working for equity, there's also then this benefit of commanding even higher salaries as well, because this is all around retaining great talent